So let's get it started. So welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to GSL Antigua Shipyard. Spawning here in the leftern position, in the purple color. He's playing random, but he's random Zerg in this game. It is TwT. And spawning across from him, the only position you can spawn in the GSL version, in case you were wondering. In the red color, he's playing for Team Benevolent Morons. It is Benjamin. Now, TwT showed us some really excellent Terran play during our Week 1 cast, and we'll see if he's just as good as Zerg, or maybe Zerg's his worst race and Terran's his best. It's interesting to kind of gauge random players and see how they rank their own races. I know when I played random, I always preferred to get Terran. Protoss was second, Zerg was last. And eventually my love for Terran just kind of overcame everything else. So I stuck with that for a while. And I know, for instance, like Born Muscles on my team really preferred randoming Protoss, but really hated when he got Zerg. So it's always kind of interesting. Random players are interesting, if you hadn't caught that. Both of these names look kind of weird with the clan tags. TKTK, TWT, BN. I'm pointing out things that don't matter at all. This is an important game for both teams, as it sets you up for the second half. I can tell you that these games weren't played in the order that we present them, but I'm going to present them in the way that they were. Everything makes sense, occasionally, I find, and I'm starting to lose my mind lately. TwT going pool first. He'll follow up with a hatchery. We don't see any attempt really from Benjamin scooting across now. This is a pretty late scout. Looks like it was after his barracks that SCV headed out. So he's not attempting to block that hatchery in any way. He just wants to see what his opponent's doing. So this is probably more passive play from him. But he does see that hatchery. He sees it's pretty low, so he should know there's a spawning pool up here. And seeing it finished isn't going to alarm him too much, especially since he hasn't been attacked by Zerglings on the way in. Again, on the GSL version of this map, you can only spawn cross position, something that it looks like Benjamin was aware of, but TwT wasn't. So this SCV actually getting a really good spot, but there's the Zerglings to put an end to that. He's not going to see too much more. The important thing I would have been to see if that hatchery was still in the process of making. Benjamin going for the 1 Rax expand. This is something basically every Terran player does in every situation now. So there's nothing ever too noteworthy to say. Let's see what he follows it up with. There's immediate double gas. Ooh, Benjamin will be teching. What will he be teching to? There are popular openings, there are unpopular openings, but there's a lot of options that this double gas gives you. This isn't going to be the standard 1 Rax into 3 Rax. Or maybe it will be, because he does have those minerals, but I don't think it will be. If we look at the vision of TwT, he actually doesn't see that command. There he goes, running in there, and the Zerglings should actually be able to escape. So that's a lot of scouting information that he just got from Benjamin. Only that seeing the handful of Marines and the command center nearly done will show him that basically his opponent's doing a 1 Rax expand. You see 1 queen already out, 2nd queen on the way for TwT. He's not making a ton of queens. Usually you'll see 4 queen or 6 queen openings now in this matchup. Since they're figured out that queens are basically OP now that they have the range upgrade. There's a Spore coming down, there's Spine Crawler coming down in the front from TwT. So he's wary of a little bit of pressure here soon. I don't think he knows exactly what it'll be. It looks like Benjamin is going to switch to Reactor to Hellions very quickly, and I imagine that we'll see a Starport as well. This is kind of an interesting wall-in that he's doing. I just kind of want to point it out because it's different than what you'll usually see. He's walling from the edge of his ramp to his command center, and you can continue walling across this choke if you so desire, or you can leave it here. But usually you'll see Terran players just take this gigantic ramp in the front, because that gives you a lot of space to put buildings back in this area. Because the main is actually a little bit small compared to mains of other maps. I guess Entomb's really the tallest. Anyway, second factory on the way. Benjamin is going to swap that over. We're going to see a little bit of mech from Benjamin, and that'll be really cool. So we'll see if he actually sticks with these Hellions or if he keeps moving this barracks around. I really hope he's going mech. I love watching mech in this matchup. I can't do it, so it's always fun for me to watch. TwT getting, I would say this is a defensive baitling nest. It doesn't look like he really wants to put on pressure since he does have his double Evo chamber. Granted, he's not using it, so that could be kind of to throw his opponent off. But I feel like he's got 800 missiles stocked up. So if I just had to judge, I would say that this is not TwT's strongest race. He did play a very nice Terran, I will have to say. And I'm as giddy as a schoolgirl listening to mech. Benjamin double armory now behind this, and his mech units are going to be so upgraded. Blue Flame on the way as well. Infernal Pre-Igniter for any of you watching at home or kind of missing that craze. It'll do 5 extra damage to light units. It used to be 10 extra damage to light units, I believe. And then they nerfed it to hell, so you don't see Blue Flame openings as often. There was a Slayer's build that was called the Blue Flame Hellion Elevator, and basically they won an entire MLG based on that for MMA. Just based on Zergs not being able to handle Hellions going into their base. But now Scouts coming down on from Benjamin. He does see that he's forced quite a few Zerglings, and he'll be happy with the number that he's roasted in comparison to the Hellions he's lost. It's been pretty even so far. Yeah, 3 Hellions lost for pretty good chunk of Zerglings. Layer on the way after TwT. He's throwing down a macro hatchery as well, which will help with this kind of insane mineral count right now. He really needs to take a third base. Go with these Hellions here. He's feeling a little bit anxious to do that, I would say. Now, mech isn't played very much, especially on ladder, against Zerg. This is going to be a style that TwT probably hasn't run into while he's playing Zerg. So watching his defense might be kind of piecemeal and kind of uninformed. And it'll be really interesting to see what he does with it. There's so many Hellions. There's 8 Hellions out in the middle of the map. That can roast these Zerglings in an instant. Especially if they meet up with these 3. 11 Hellions, just... no, Zerglings are not what you want against mech. Infestors are a good start. So we're kind of seeing him get an idea about what his opponent's doing. He sees all these Hellions, and these Zerglings kind of are going to be trapped and killed. Unfortunately, he's going for a counterattack. There's Siege Tank. There's a couple of Hellions back to defend. The style that will tend to punish the mech player the most, at least early on, will be Mutalisks. Until they can get out 2 or 3 floors, they're going to be very, very weak to the Mutalisk, especially since Engineering Bay, not necessarily part of the build. Benjamin, kind of weird. He's still only on 2 gas geysers. He's finished these up, but he's not really harvesting out of them. So his gas is a little bit handcuffed, especially for having 4 factories. He's not really able to make use of everything right now. But he's been controlling these Hellions a lot. If we look, he's roasted 37 units so far. TwT still getting out a lot of Zerglings. And that's kind of weird. He's getting his Baneling roll upgrade, the centrifugal hooks if you want the full name. But right now, Benjamin will really dictate the flow of this game. He's got his 3rd Kessel center done. He'll be able to float that over whenever. I don't know if he's aware that his opponent doesn't have a 3rd yet. I don't know how recent that is. But now, he's got enough Hellions, he can start roasting Queens. Now he's going to have to microwave from these Lings. The surround can end them all still. But he's doing a good job. He even splits off a couple of them, and he'll send them up probably toward the 3rd. And he'll go up here and check. He's hoping for a lot of drones up here. There's a scan, try and get rid of this creep. This is really well done. He kills all but one of the active creep tumors. No, never mind, he didn't get it. So the creep will recede here for TwT. He doesn't have that extra queen now to help spread that. There's the roaches. Roaches tend to be very good against mech play, as they can absorb a little bit of damage from the siege tanks, and they do well against the Hellions. Granted, you never want pure roach against Terran, because siege tanks just destroy them. 55 damage per shot against roaches. So stacking those up, you can get your roaches 2, or I guess that's like 3 or 4 shotted, depending on the armor upgrades. And yeah, TwT seems to be falling prey. He's kind of figured out the unit he needed earlier. If he had the Mutalisks already and would be able to harass a little bit before his Thors were out, I would say he was in a decent spot. But there's 2 Thors out already. He does have a good view of his opponent's army with his Changeling. That's a nice little touch. Changelings ought to be used more. Benjamin now throwing down 2 more factories because he hasn't been macroing the best back behind everything. He's going up +2 vehicle weapons, and this mech army is going to be so powerful. TwT now trying to take center control with a small group of roaches. If his opponent was sitting at the watchtower, these are just forfeit, basically. And I hate to harp on TwT, but he doesn't seem prepared for mech play at all. It doesn't look like something that he's had to deal with, and he doesn't seem to be too strong against it. He's getting Ventral Sacs upgrade. He's already got Pneumatized Carapace, so he'll be able to drop units up into his opponent's base, which is a nice touch. I don't think it's going to be too game-changing, but it will help to combat the immobility of the mech units. If he can do some damage with some harassment, like roach drops, even infestor drops are pretty good. But he needs to do something. I feel like he's kind of missed his windows, because we see now the missile turret rings getting up. He'll start being able to produce Thors like 3 or 4 at a time if he needs them. And yeah, Benjamin really in the lead. We'll just say that. Third base now just finishing up for TwT. And again, the third command center's been done forever for Benjamin, so it's just a matter of when he wants to float that down. If we look economically, 62 drones to 65 SCVs, that's not good. And now he's starting to take a more offensive position here toward his third, so he'll be taking that fairly soon. It does look like that's going to fly over now. Unfortunately, and nicely for TwT, blocking that with a little bit of creep. So that'll be a pain to get out. Meanwhile, back in TwT land, he's got 1-1 upgrades for his roaches. He'll be up to... he's still on 1-1 for his banelings as well. So his upgrade's not as good as his opponent's. His unit's not as good as his opponent's, which is actually more telling. And now Benjamin's maxed out. Maxed out mech. You just kind of want to aim move across the map. You want to set up your siege tanks, of course, in good positions. But basically, you want to aim move across the map. One thing I will say is he's really heavy on Hellions. He's expecting a lot of Zergling Baneling, I think. And his opponent does have quite a bit of that, but he's switched into Roaches. And these Hellions aren't going to be as effective, but it looks like enough of everything. So here we go, the great move of the mech army, headed to the middle of the map. That poor Zergling won't get a chance to see his armor again. There's even a smattering of Marine. Is that 1 Marine? Yes, 1 Marine in with the army. That's not a standard mech army. Usually it's all Marine, or standard Terran army. Usually it's all Marines. Those things are OP. In comes everything. There's a couple of nice fungals on the Hellions. I'm not sure that's exactly what you want a fungal, but the Banelings roll in. They do quite a bit of damage to the Hellion force. Is there enough to actually clean up these tanks and Thors, though? Banelings drop down on top of the Thors. They clean up all the siege tanks, but all the Thors still left over. There's even a handful of Hellions still. These Thors are 2-2 upgraded. They're not dying easily. That's really cute. The Neuroparasite coming out by that Infestor, but it's just targeted down by Benjamin, and he'll start cleaning up some of these over. So he's going to retreat. This Zergling reinforcement, I guess, would be enough to probably clean it up, although 1-1 Zerglings versus 2 Thors, 3-2 Thors, excuse me, the upgrade just finished, is kind of laughable. He's switching in ship weapons, which is important. That means he is thinking late game about a Sky Terran switch, and that's kind of where metagame for Terran is going, is towards Sky Terran, because people are realizing that it's fantastic. Here comes the Zergling counterattack from TwT. There's still siege tanks here, so this isn't going to do too well. There's a handful of Hellions, and that'll be immediately repulsed. So if you look at units lost, ooh, that tells the story. TwT, meanwhile, still feeling stuck on 3 bases, even though his opponent's pretty immobile. He could take a 4th and a 5th. He's got the money, too, as well. And that's what I'd love to see him do. Instead, he's really just sitting back with his army. He's going to do Zergling drops. Zergling drops aren't great, just because you can only fit 8 Zerglings in an Overlord. So you need to fill up a lot of Overlords. And he's actually at supply cap right now. So losing any of these Overlords is actually going to supply block him, which is really weird. But there's a decent missile turret ring already out for Benjamin. His main is mined out. He needs to start thinking about taking a 4th, and that's what it's going to be. He's bringing along like 16 SCVs. That's a pretty good number. Not all in by any means, not, unnoticeable. But these are all on auto repair for this mech army. That'll make him really good. TwT, meanwhile, going to drop his Zerglings into the main base of his opponent. One Overlord gets taken out before it's able to drop everything. And actually, a lot of these Zerglings being taken down before they're able to drop out. I mean, there's still enough in this main that they're going to do quite a bit of damage in here. We'll see exactly what they can target down. Meanwhile, Benjamin moving in, Fungal coming down on these SCVs. They're trying to repair each other now rather than repairing these costly mech units. This is a pretty good siege tank spread, as it turns out. The Roach is not doing too much. We see Zerglings actually still not really taken care of. The Hellions, it looks like they tried to A-move in, but they weren't quite able to clean everything up. It's losing a lot of supply depots, but nothing too big has been taken out yet. And we see the mech army still very much intact. He's moving into the 3rd. A little jumbled here on this ramp. A little bit crowded, but it looks like they will negotiate that just fine. And all these drones being roasted. We look 21 workers killed now to 8, and most of those 8 were with the army, so it doesn't matter too much. Terran players, if you have SCVs in your army, don't hotkey them with your army. That's my one bit of advice. Don't box your army, otherwise your SCVs will go and attack rather than sit back and repair. So there's a little bit of life lesson for the day. As he moves in, Zergling's all cleaned up in the main. The last ditch Zergling drop going to go toward the 3rd, but there's the GG from TwT as his natural dies. And this is a really well played game by Benjamin. He plays mech very clinically against Zerg. He gets just enough of what he needs to deal with what his opponent's doing, and TwT didn't react in the right way very well. So really well played game for Benevolent Morons, and that is the Series 2. Now, just to inform you, there are 2 forfeits right in a row here, one for each team. So we're going to be 3-3, and we'll head into the ace match right after this. So don't go anywhere. Ace match on the way. 3-3 between Benevolent Morons and Team Kessel. So don't go anywhere. A lot of exciting StarCraft left for you. This is Marismatic casting CTL.